Okay. Shout out to Dan Holland, our IT director, for getting the internet back up tonight.
Right, Dan.
All right, we're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting for September 20th, 2021 at 7:44 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Next, we have the approval of minutes for August 16th, 2021 executive session.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Next, we're going to move to our announcements and presentations, and we're going to start with a proclamation honoring the Nallman family and the Rose Nallman Park Foundation. So if Ms. Nallman can come up front, I'll meet you down there.
And I'll be the photographer.
All right, we have Carol Nallman with us tonight, as well as Sydney Ghazi and Cynthia Zerkara from the Coastal Access Improvement Committee here in town. So I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and then we'll have a few words said. So this is a proclamation in recognition and appreciation of the Nallman family and the Rose Nallman Park Foundation, in honor and gratitude. Whereas the Rose Nallman Foundation and the Nallman family for the gift of preserving pristine ocean front land located in Narragansett, Rhode Island. The Rose Nallman Park is a dedicated natural space for the community and visitors alike to enjoy the beauty of the Point Judith Lighthouse, the Narragansett Bay, and the Atlantic Ocean. And whereas the parcel of oceanfront land is a valuable and treasured landmark, which at its very essence embodies the natural beauty that is a part of Narragansett, Rhode Island. Through the generous and thoughtful insight of the Nallman family, the legacy of Rose Nallman will be preserved for generations through the Rose Nallman Park, and whereas maintaining the beauty of this treasured landmark is the responsibility of everyone, the town of Narragansett recognizes the need to support this endeavor for future generations. And now, therefore, in special recognition of the vital role this treasured landmark has in the town of Narragansett, the Coastal Access Improvement Committee and the Honorable Narragansett Town Council do hereby extend this proclamation of gratitude and honor. We encourage all citizens to actively participate in the protection and preservation of the Rose Nallman Park. Witness my hand and the official seal of the town of Narragansett, County of Washington, State of Rhode Island, this 20th day of September, 2021. Congratulations. Before Ms. Nallman speaks, I just want to also thank the members of the Coastal Access Improvement Committee for putting this together. I know they spent quite a bit of time on this in communication with Ms. Nallman, so we appreciate the work you guys have done as well. So.
Well, I don't know, how does your back? I first want to say thank you so much, Jesse, to the committee, to the new Access Committee. We've owned the land for over 30 years. We are a private family, as most of you know, and I think the general public has always believed it's been owned by the town. It has been our honor to own that land. It is a privilege that we do not take for granted. And my father bought it in 1990, and it has instilled entrepreneurship, but more importantly, open space. And it would be heart-wrenching, I think everybody would agree, to see condos, hotels, or any such things on that piece of property. And as our commitment, we will keep that open space forever. But now, after 30 years, we need help. The erosion that we are facing as the ocean state is critical, not only in the park, but throughout the whole state. And I ask everybody to contact congressmen, senators, our governor. We are about to bestow with billions of dollars of infrastructure money, all these special grants. Federal money is coming like we've never seen in our lifetime. This is not bond money. We will pay for it in the long run, but right now, billions have been allocated to Rhode Island. What we must convince our politicians that Save the Bay and other organizations have for years is our coastline is infrastructure to us. That yes, roads and bridges are important, but we are the ocean state. The ocean is our critical mass here. Let's be number one at something and show the world that we can preserve our coastline. It's not just the park, but the park is in trouble. I have a sinkhole under the parking lot, and anybody who's been up there recently knows it's cliffs. And we cannot have the danger. We're going to hear some sad stories in a little while. I don't want that happening at the park. So the public, I'm asking to step forward. I'm going to put an RFP out for a project manager to help us. Again, we're a private family. We know nothing about it. But we are lucky in this state to have so many intelligent, brilliant people who know the environment. And I'm calling for anybody who has ideas, sources that I might not be aware of. This is bigger than one family can do. I don't want to put a fence around that park, which is what the result will be if I can't get the millions. And honestly, I don't even know how big these projects are, but I know they're a fortune. So please, if you love going up there, we're replacing all the benches, there's new benches, and just looking at that beautiful landscape, please support us. We've never asked for anything from the public before. We are asking you now. Support us and help us. Help the state get infrastructure money. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Ms. Nallman. We also just want to reiterate that the town recognizes the resource that you have made available to people in the area. So the town is looking forward to working with you as we can. And anyone who would like to speak on this topic tonight, if you're here tonight and you want to speak more about it, we will have open forum shortly. You have a chance to do that then as well. So thank you. Okay, so next we have a presentation from Mary Jean Miniotti on pickleball in Narragansett.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, so we have some slides. I think Dan's bringing them up. Okay, so I'll just start off with a few months ago, MJ called me when I was visiting my family in Mississippi, and she said, I'm doing this really exciting thing, and I really want you to know about it, and I really think you should sign up for lessons, and I'm teaching them. And so, of course, she said, they're filling up fast, so you got to do it now. And so I didn't give it a thought, and I signed up not knowing what it was. And so when I got off the phone, and after signing up, my family started asking, they're like, what did you sign up for? And I said, oh, I signed up for pickleball. So then they started asking me all sorts of questions about it. I'm like, I have no idea. So like many of us, we probably don't. I know Jesse knew about it because he played it in high school. So I actually wanted to do introduction to it with a little video. It's probably 7.5 years old, but it's still relevant today. And the stats have changed because it is the fastest growing sport. in the nation. So we are going to play that video for you, and then MJ is going to take over.
I could narrate. It's the fastest growing sport. Is it? You have some sound? There you go. A little louder. So this shows the court, all ages. It's a very short, small court, about the size of a badminton. So you can fit about 4 pickleball courts on the size of a tennis court. As you can see, gentlemen play, men, women from the ages of 4. Can we get it a little louder? It was created in 1965 by a senator and his family to try and keep their people from being bored. So he took like a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball, the size of the court of the bat, and it's played very quickly. It's easy to learn, so he just picked it up that day. Usually played in doubles against each other, and everybody's close. So teamwork just like this. And it still remains being the fastest growing sport in the U.S. They're talking right now about the villages in Florida, which could be the pickleball capital of the world. They have, how many, like over 50 or 100 courts in the villages? Oh, there you go, 230 courts in the villages.
Have you ever played? Yeah.
Too bad you couldn't quite hear that, but basically, you know, being the fastest growing sport in the world, it's multiplying. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. I want to commend Narragansett for being the first one of 2 communities in Rhode Island that have dedicated. So what you see here are the 4 dedicated pickleball courts down on Clark Road, and this was a tournament that was held this weekend to raise money for the Narragansett Historical Society. Right behind there, that white building is an old windmill, part of the National Historical Society. We raised over $3,000. I'm not sure, the total numbers aren't in yet. Could be more like 4 or 5, just by a pickleball tournament. So you can see the number of people that are playing there. And what's beautiful about Narragansett, it's great. We were one of the first 2 communities. But as soon as the courts were commissioned about 3 years ago, we've outgrown them. And I wasn't even involved. This is the first year that I was involved, but we have over 4 dozen people who played all winter during COVID on these courts outside. You know, we play for a couple hours, you come bundled up in warm jackets and then start peeling the layers off. And by the end of a few hours, you're sweating in a t-shirt. So it's very obviously popular. We only have 4 courts here. We probably could use at least 16. The health benefits are tremendous. All ages and abilities, people play from the ages of 4 to 94. Multiple generations, so you can play with your kids, your parents, your grandparents. So it's very, very easy to learn. It is not easy to master. but everybody here could learn within a couple of hours. And I would like to welcome everybody on the town council and anybody on the rec department or the economic development council or the administration. If you haven't played pickleball, I would personally teach you for free. So I would welcome you to do that. We have programming, the adult programming for pickleball is going on almost year-round. Neighborhood towns, Newport was the other community. They have 3 dedicated pickleball courts, and there are 6 that are just being almost commissioned in Ninigret. But neighboring towns of South Kingston and North Kingston, I know, are looking into it. But believe me, as soon as, even if all of these communities put pickleball courts in, they will continue to grow. There are a number of outdoor grant opportunities, I'm sure, that we could get to have some assistance. But as I said, we've already outgrown these 4 courts. What typically happens in southern communities, like that you'd have beginners on one set of 4 courts, advanced beginners on another set of 4 courts, intermediates, and then experts. You wouldn't want to have, we're looking at time. Could we go to the next slide? Don't have too many more. So Naples, we'll just pass that. That's where it started. They took, Naples did take an old skateboarding court, which we, up at Cristofaro, lined 3 courts so that we could put up our own nets to help teach people there. Growing exponentially, 21% a year, every year, and it's just keep growing and growing because so many people. Next slide, please. We talk about economic development, sports, tourism.
So I'll just jump in here. So because it is the fastest, we were talking about how it is the fastest growing sport, and as we saw in the previous slide, it's growing at a rapid, fast rate, and even from the past year, single year, if you go back to that last slide, Dan, please. From 2020, it grew by 4.2 million players in the U.S., and that's a really big growth rate of 21.3% from 2019. So then the following slide just kind of like finishes it up with like really what could we do here, and just having maybe the economic development committee look at it. You know, sports tourism is a big thing. You know, like we were talking about, MJ was talking about grant opportunities. I think NK got some grants for this, and just you know, maybe just collaborating with neighborhood towns and just, you know, maybe doing regional events. So that was pretty much what we had to say. And then I don't know if you have any closing remarks. All set.
Well, closing remarks, the health benefits, you know, are proven. It's not only good for you physically, but especially socially. Because, I mean, when you think about how many things can we do as we age, and having that social, emotional, physical, and it's been proven to reduce depression and anxiety, increase cardiovascular health. And I got to tell you, it's just so much fun. The reason why it's growing so quickly is because it is fun. It can be competitive, but it can also be social. And the more people, we welcome everybody to join in. And hopefully you will consider getting a lot more courts.
I think Patrick and I are going to play until it's there. We're gonna compete, so we'll be on the courts. But thank you, MJ, for coming out, and thank you for the fun times, and thank you for the lessons. They were great.
Thank you, MJ.
All right, thank you, MJ. We do have a few more presentations, but quickly we're going to go to our public hearing portion just to reschedule a couple public hearings, and we will come back to this. So first we have a motion to reschedule the public hearing to consider rezoning a property to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan land use map at the property owner's request. Do we have a motion?
Susan? Second.
Okay, so this is, this is related to the Twin Willows property. We've discussed this a few times, and this was a request by the property owner actually, to have this rescheduled. So that would be a recommended date of November 15th, 2021. Any questions or comments from the council? All right, anyone from the public wishing to speak specifically on the rescheduling? Please state your full name and address.
Good evening. Ed Perry. I'm an attorney for two of the abutters. First thing is I just request a different date. I'm not available on November 15th, preferably December 6th. I know we're getting into the holiday season. I'm not sure if that's possible. But it also strikes me, just solely on the rescheduling issue, is, you know, that there may be an alternative remedy here instead of continuing out these hearings out into the holiday season. You know, what began as an administrative cleanup is now involving testimony from the property owner, that a solution might be to have the town withdraw the application, restart, go back to the planning board, get everybody back involved. You know, so withdrawal is on the table here as an alternative, very humble suggestion. Otherwise, I just ask that it be moved to December 6th.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public interested in speaking? Okay, so for the council, so we have a request for December 6th from the council representing a few abutters. So that would be a Monday as well, 2 weeks later.
So can I just ask James Callahan something? So if we were thinking it was a town cleanup and we were not going to support it and would keep it as residential instead of commercial, is there an opportunity to withdraw it tonight if the council has the pleasure?
You probably could, but I think there's some other issues that we should probably address with Mr. Luca going forward about that. I think we had some internal discussions about that earlier with Mike, and I'd like an opportunity to discuss that before you withdraw it, if that happens. I'm not sure if that's something you'd want to do or consider, but right now probably wouldn't be the right time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is everyone okay with December 6th? Yes. Yep, okay. So this would be a motion to approve rescheduling the public hearing to December 6th, 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved 5-0. Next, we have a motion to reschedule a public hearing on an application from 901 Ocean Road Holdings, LLC, to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, proposing a new section 12.24, Development Standard for Extended Stay Hotels, and amending Section 6.3, Prohibited Uses, Table Use Regulations. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so this is a public hearing that we had tentatively, well, we scheduled it for October 4th, knowing that we might get down to the wire on that one. The planning board has not made a ruling, no recommendation yet, so this would just be pushing it back. And it sounds like the October 18th is going to work in terms of the overall schedule with planning. So October 18th, 2021, to reschedule. Any questions?
No.
Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. All right, so back to announcements and presentations. Our finance director was not feeling well, so she is actually not here to speak on the ARPA funding. However, our police chief has graciously offered his services to give a alternate announcement on the Citizens Police Academy. So Chief Corrigan.
Thank you. It's just a quick announcement, reminder. We've been accepting applications for our Citizens Police Academy, which will be starting on September 29th. The deadline to get those applications in is coming up on September 24th. I put some flyers, if anybody's interested in taking a look at it, in the front, and you can check us out on our social media as well. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Chief.
I participated one year and I loved it, so I encourage you all to take the course. It's a lot of fun and you'll learn a lot, so thank you, Chief.
Okay. Actually, before we move on to the last presentation, I just do want to make a quick statement. We did have a ceremony over the weekend recognizing and thanking all of our boarded committee members here in town. We did hand out some official Narragansett pins there, so anyone who serves on a board or committee who's interested in picking up their pin, feel free to stop by the town hall, and they are in the clerk's office, and you can ask for Janet Taro, and she can get you your pin. So lastly, we have our engineering director, John Gerhard, with a water quality update. Thanks, John.
I'd like to thank the council for having this opportunity tonight. Good evening, everyone. Just want to give a little update on the water quality status. We had some preliminary results from the water modeling project and the studies and the investigations done in July. And the results of that is that water age has been identified as a primary factor to our chlorine residual decay and a TDHM, disinfection byproduct growth in the systems, based upon the results of the water system model project. And following that, water operators carried out some targeted flushing strategies that were identified and developed utilizing the hydraulic model as an initial response to the water age conditions. Essentially, we've got the water systems are not acting as a full and draw from the tanks. It gets kind of locked up in the tanks a little bit, and the tanks don't turn over, so the water gets stored for a longer period of time. Long-term solutions being developed utilizing the hydraulic model, and improvements will be implemented as appropriate based on the results and conclusions when the evaluations have been completed. So that'll be some system operational changes that we could try to do to get the water to flow and move around in the systems a little better and not stay in the tanks as long. And here I think I'm guilty of bearing the lead on this, is that the TTHM average values are below the regulated standard threshold for all town and Narragansett water systems for the Q3, July to September 2021 Rhode reporting period. All the water systems are in compliance this last reporting period. Nice. So Dan, if you go to the next slide, please. That's the Point Judas system. That shows the numbers along the bottom row are the reporting numbers. For the last quarter is the 0.0826 on the right, which is still slightly above the 080 limit, but the compliance is based on the annual average, and the number in green on the right, 0774, is the running annual average for the quarter. So Point Judith is in compliance. And the next slide, please, Dan. And the same goes for the North End water system sewer supply, where we were at 0.0741 for September, and the running average is 0.766. Those numbers were both better than we would normally get during the summer period. So our actions that we've taken so far were positive, and we managed to get out for both systems.
That's great.
So, and that's
That's good news.
Believe me, no one wanted to hear this news. I was upset that I didn't buy a lottery ticket the night before we got the results back, but it was a positive development, and again, we've all been struggling in the water department with the difficulty we've had to get this back to this position here, and again, we look forward to continuing in this same mode, and we're confident that we've got the problem under control.
Excellent. Thank you,
Great.
John.
Thank you, John. Great news. Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to open forum public comment. Anyone who would like to speak on any items not on the agenda tonight, this will be the time. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and state your full name and address when you come to the podium. Straight back.
Thank you. My name is Ted Sorleen. I live in Wakefield, Rhode Island, Wakefield, with my wife and 3 kids. I'm 56 years old. I grew up surfing locally and have surf traveled globally for 51 years. I was a commercial fisherman right out of high school for 10 years. What that means is that I have spent most all of my life in or on the ocean. I have great respect for the ocean and safety awareness for the power of the sea. I never hesitate to tell somebody to back up from dangerous shore conditions, to not paddle out in dangerous surf conditions or to return to shore if I know that they're in danger or to themselves or to other people. I know that long overdue life safety devices were approved back in June, I believe, by the council, and you know, those safety devices to be installed someplace between Monahan's Dock and Black Point. And what I'd like to say is that I'm here tonight to ask you if I can sit in with my years of, you know, this ocean flowing through my veins, really, to work with you to make sure that it is done right so that nobody else tragically loses their life and loved ones aren't mourning the loss of their, you know, their husbands or children or anybody who's going out there. You know, everybody goes down there for different reasons, but to get it right, I also would like to invite a couple of people along. And I'd be available anytime to sit with anybody to talk about it, but there are a couple other people here. Steve Melodosian is one guy who's here right now, and Steve actually really stepped up to try and help on the rescue or the recovery that ended up happening last Friday. And Charlie Donadio was also here too. We're all dedicated surfers and true watermen. We know Charlie was, you know, the head of the lifeguard, you know, station at Narragansett Town Beach for 10 years. Brian Gordagno, 20 years, 7 years under Charlie, and I think 20 years now running it. He would also step in to help you guys really figure this out to make sure that is, you know, done in the proper way. I think that we can help you guys make this work. And I went to Emilio DiMartino's wake last week, and I met and shook the hands of his family, including his young son and daughter, and it was very moving. Obviously, they're really, really devastated. And then 8 days later, we come up on this other incident, and you know, luckily one guy survived, and the other guy is struggling to hang on for life, it sounds like. But I forgot it back in my seat, but if, Charlie, can you just hold that red thing back up right there? Right there on my seat. That's a throw cushion. I bought that at $5 at a yard sale long ago for my canoe. I can throw that thing 60 feet in my backyard like a Frisbee, no problem. That's all that Brian needed to survive. And the fact that there's been nothing between Black Point and Monahan's Dock all these years, and all these people have died. Again, I was born in 1965. I wish I knew how many people died in all those years along that tragic coastline. But I hope that we can be a part of helping you guys figure it out. And I'd really like to finish by just thanking Carol Norman for the years of use for your park. Thank you, Carol. The park is amazing. I hope that she gets the infrastructure funding that's available, allocated to make her park safe, because that's what she really cares about. She wants to make sure that she can keep it open so nobody gets hurt and gets wrecked on the rocks down there in the parking lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the offer. We'll make sure the town manager is in touch with you. Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the far back? Hi, please state your full name and address.
My name is Stephen Richards. I live at 91 Inez Street in Narragansett. I've been a town resident for 48 years, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the pickleball facility because I wanted everybody to have a little clearer understanding of certain things. I've got a petition here signed by people, 300 people who play pickleball in Narragansett. And we have those people, 140 of them are Narragansett residents. And of those 140 people, Gavin, knowing how much money I've paid in taxes over the years, we're paying well over $1 million a year in taxes to the people in Narragansett. Many of us are local people who've been here for a long time. And we believe that that right now the current facility of 4 courts is way overused, and it's not something that should be tolerated much longer, because it's growing. It's growing at such a rapid rate that right now, even this morning, we played there this morning, there was over 75 people there just this morning playing pickleball on 4 courts. So it's just an overused facility. But we know right now that if you expand those current courts, I have a bid from a contracting company that actually did the work at Clark Road, and that bid to expand those current courts to 8 courts would be about $100,000. What is really needed, however, is 12 courts, because pretty soon this will become a high school sport. And more and more young people are playing. It's easy to play. It's healthy to play. I have terminal cancer. I can tell you that because of my cancer, it's really important that I play something every day because my doctor says it keeps me alive. So there are people like that myself that just need this type of activity. But the young people are playing. More and more young people are going to be playing pickleball. There is no facility yet capable enough to teach kids and to have other people like myself want to play. So if they're teaching them, there's no place for us to play in town, none. So what we need to have is we need to have a pickleball facility that actually contemplates growth. So really what we should be looking for is 12 courts instead of 8 courts, but we really need 8 courts now. But why would you do 8 courts now when you know you're going to need 12 courts in another 2 or 3 years? Because that's how fast it's growing. So what we had the 4 courts, when we did the 4 courts, it seemed like a reasonable thing to do. It was a reasonable thing to do because not that many people were playing. But in 4 years, we've grown way far outgrown the growth of the 4 courts. So therefore, it seems logical that instead of just spending on 4 more courts, bringing 8 courts, which we need right now, it would be really a good idea to go out there and try to do 12 courts because that's what is needed in the future. And even that probably won't be enough in the long term. We have people from all over the country that come here in the summertime. And when they want to come over and they play, I've got plenty of their signatures right here. So I actually have a bid of $100,000 to do the 8 courts. I was told it'd be about another $100,000 or less to expand it to 12 courts, and we could do fundraisers and we can do all kinds of, we just had a fundraiser for the.
All right, thank you. We're at our time.
All right. Well,
Thank you. Appreciate it. And at any time, that petition, when you guys are ready, that could be dropped off.
I haven't dropped, I get it right now, so.
Okay, you can leave it with the town clerk and right at this table here. Thank you. All right, anyone else? In the far back, by the door. Hi, please state your full name and address.
Charlie Donadio, 66 Nantucket Road, North End, Narragansett. How you doing? I just want to come up here and reiterate what Ted said. I spent my life on the water as well, surfing. Actually, we went to Indonesia together for 2 weeks, so we've seen, how mean and ferocious the ocean can be at times. And it seems like every time we get a big swell and hurricane in the fall, there's always cops and fire ambulances running to the avenues to rescue somebody. And, this has happened more than enough than we need. It's not good publicity for the town. And as you know, when the weathermen get on the TV and they pump up the big swells and the hurricane swells, everyone ends up down in Narragansett. They end up at Nolman Park, watching the surfers, watching the waves. And of course, we get the fishermen that are on all the rocks, not realizing the danger that's there when the swells come and go. So, I just want to reiterate what Ted said. I think it's a great idea what you're doing, but we need to get those things installed. Also, I think you have an agenda is extending the beach season a little bit. And if you end up doing something like that and keeping, limited lifeguards on staff for the first couple of weeks of September, I think that's another way. They usually have a jet ski on the beach. And I think if they had a jet ski on the beach, they would have been at that scene within 5 minutes. I had the unfortunate and fortunate, I saw what happened. I was on the dock. I saw Steve come in. I couldn't believe he was actually in the back of the jet ski. He actually saw the police racing like 80 miles an hour. He went down the street on his own, basically told the cop to stay there, threw his fins on, jumped off the rocks, and unfortunately, I think that the guy was probably past being in the water. And we're standing on the dock watching the jet ski come in, and we're like, that's Steve on there, what's going on? And he's punching the chest of this guy trying to, get his heartbeat back. But, I've got the vision, this guy was bloated, he was blue, it was not a very good scene. But, watching the fire rescue come down and seeing everything unwind in front of me, and one thing that I want to say is that I know that the fire department has a new jet ski, but these guys should be training. I mean, I think the reaction could have been quicker. Maybe there was traffic, maybe it was just they didn't do it that many times, but, I live my life on the water, and we practice drills. You can't get complacent. On one of our vessels, we've done like 85 drills in 1 year. So if the fire department has this great equipment on hand, they should be doing time trials, getting to the rocks, how fast can they get down there, or maybe keeping the jet ski at a more convenient location where you can access it more quickly and not get stuck in traffic, because I know that there was a lot of traffic on that road when they were trying to get down there. But anyways, they did a good job. Unfortunately, I think it was probably a little too late for even Steve to get there, because the guy was probably in the water for a while. But it is unfortunate to lose a life in town and have that publicity and have family members, obviously losing a loved one. But, anything you need, Ted, myself, Steve, anyone else, we can get all kinds of support to help install these things, or even funds or whatever. So, but anyways, I just want to say that Steve did a great job, witnessing what happened, and hopefully you can get these things installed very quickly. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie.
Yep. Sorry, one more thing I forgot. What Rose was speaking about with the Lighthouse, I think is very important. As you know, infrastructure bills and money is available out there. And if the town can get behind her and help her with the connections, it is federal money. And I surfed down there a couple swells ago, and it's very dangerous. And all those rocks have basically fallen into the ocean. And you can see the line stops at the Coast Guard station. Beautiful rocks were installed to protect the property. But then when you get to her property, it's basically falling in the ocean. And the people that are standing on those rocks on the cliff are kids, families, seniors. They're flocking down there during these big storms. And it's only a matter of time before someone, gets hurt there as well. So if there's anything that we can do to give her support, federally, getting the, Langevin, Jack Reed, anybody to help her get some infrastructure money, it's basically public access. I think we should support that and do what we can to help her property out. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Dr. Alba? Please state your full name and address.
Sure, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island, 02882. I would like to thank the police chief, his team, the fire department, and obviously the EMTs, EMS. You guys are lifesavers, so thank you. Several weeks ago when we had Tropical Storm Henri, there was a picture of this person on the Our Town Narragansett page. He was just flashing his hands like this here, and then all of a sudden you saw him go down. It brings back when we had Hurricane Bob, and I was about the 50-yard line between Monaghan's and the edge. I wasn't on the rocks at all. I was up there. My dad called me in. He goes, get in here, get in here. So I ran after him, and sure enough, the whole area got engulfed. I would have been, taken under. We're all intrigued by the sea, and a lot of times we don't know what's best for us. We're unaware we're in harm's way. So on that note, we might want to consider when we have these very bad storms to actually have all these areas locked off. Somehow say people cannot go on those areas, have them petitioned off. Also, we might want to consider having on the Our Town page, there was a gentleman who was a fisherman. He goes, I have this little belt he puts around him. He goes, it might be an idea that everyone wears these belts who go out there. And if someone does go in, they could just engage this here or clamp and it inflates. I saw that they were talking about those life preservers, throwing them out, but I think having some kind of harness around them, each people who go out there, especially the gentleman just said at the families that are out there, if they go under, time is of the essence, and if someone goes down, unless we have those jet skis out there and have everyone perfect timing, people are going to be dying. So it's just consideration. This is above my pay grade. I'll let the experts decide what's the best course of action, but as you know, we've had to wear the mask before we all got vaccinated. We had to, when we're told that we have bacteria in our water, we can't drink it. When the beaches are closed, that's irrational. We have to close our beaches down because we don't want our dogs, our animals, even us, to get infested with the bacteria count. So whatever we have to do to save lives, let's do that. Let's consult with all the experts. Even when I went to Connecticut Point, There were people who were going out there, even though you have these signs, you have signage, don't swim in this area. The kids, what were they? They were swimming in that area. So we have to, I think, be firm. We wear seatbelts for a reason, because we don't want people to die while they're driving when they get in accidents. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the back? Tom? Please state your full name and address.
Sure, I'm Tom Warren, live at 26 Jake's Way, which is off Clock Road. And I wanted to speak briefly tonight about this proposal for expanding the pickleball courts in the Clock Road area. I understand, I appreciate the slide presentation, the quick growth of this sport. I understand that there might be more need to have more courts, but to put more courts at that particular site, I think is poor judgment. I feel that you have to have a balance within the recreational sphere within the town, and we need open space and green space as much as we do pickleball courts. That particular area is also home to the summer camp. All the kids who spend their summer at the summer camp are in that area all summer long. They play golf, they're doing all types of activities over there. In the wintertime, when it snows, the young children go down that little slide, that little hill, and they spend a lot of time doing that. College kids playing football, basketball, I see kite flying going on over there. These are important parts of our community, important things that we need to do. So I don't know who's going to fund 16 pickleball courts. I don't know what the plan is for all that, but I do know we need open space and green space as much as we do pickleball courts. In 1858, the city of New York realized this and built Central Park. In 1871, Providence did the same thing with Roger Williams Park. You have to have green space. People need that for recreational purposes, and I would advise you not to disturb that particular space. We have the skating park over there, the summer camp, the pickleball courts, which the pickleball community now has all 4 of those courts, which were once tennis. So I think that we need to look at this as a balance. We have to have green space as much as we have to have pickleball courts. There are other places in town. You could take a look at Eastwood Look, that park, to Christopher Park. You could take a look at that park. But to expand pickleball at the Clock Road site, I think is unadvisable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Stanley? Yeah, I see. Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. I want to speak about liberty and justice for all, that we just said. And I want to note that in the Times, I noticed that 50% of the violations noted here were DUI. Therefore, I want to speak about DUI, drunken disorderly, that causes noise and disturbing the peace action in town. Obviously, the fines, I think they're $500, whatever they are, the fines are not enough. And I look for you to try to pursue court fees and other enforcement fees of $4,500, so there is a fine or a cost to offenders of $5,000, whether they're students or not, DUI, whatever, $5,000. That needs to be the impact to stop the disturbances in our town. I don't think we should be violating our property rights with the town becoming my rental property manager. That's my property. I have property rights. And now we're pursuing the town with laws to come to my property and kind of manage who I have down there. I think that violates property rights, my liberty. I also think we shouldn't violate justice for all. All persons are equal. All persons shall be considered equal. I was really offended when I heard students are not a protected class. All people are equal. Don't tell me somebody's not protected, somebody's not equal. I can't take that. Non-residents or gypsies They're equal. Students are equal. Visitors are equal. We're all equal. I don't want to hear something different than that. That violates the justice for all that we just talked about. I get very upset when I see that. So therefore, I would beg you to pursue the $5,000 cost to be assessed to people who violate the law rather than violate liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chirama? Please state your full name and address.
Gina Jarama, 99 Saltaire. First, I'd like to thank you guys for all that you're doing, particularly moving open forum to the early part of the evening, so I can go home and go to bed after this. I wanted to talk about a few things, some thoughts that I've had recently, and one of them is one that has come to this council a number of times, and that's the parking issue in town. And so, you know, the summer season just ended, and I speak for myself, but I don't drive a lot of places during the summer because it's kind of nuts, and I certainly don't go to the Pier very often because I can never find parking. And I feel like at some point there has to be a better system for parking for residents and for the balance with tourists at the same time, because we can't access, you know, literally access the restaurants and the locations we want to sometimes when it's so busy. And part of that is because we have all these people that would like to come to our beautiful town, but we have to limit those things. And so one of the things that I'd hope would be part of the parking problem, a solution would be to think about meters or metering. I know there's state roads and town roads and the side streets, but I just spent a week vacation with my kids down the Delmarva, and every beach we went to, no matter the size, it was all permitted, parking metered for a certain number of hours, which is perfectly acceptable. The other thought I had was related to the boards and commissions, which you guys honored and recognized a lot of those people that work on those. And one of the things I just want to say is that, you know, there are departments in the town that work really hard to get things done, and those boards and commissions are designed to support them. And they have in many ways, and all the volunteers really put their time and effort into it. But one of the things I noticed was that it's not very parallel structure. For example, I read all of the annual reports back to 2017 because they're all on the, you know, on the website. And every time I would go through it, I'd see like every commission had a different way to report out their annual information. And so there's no real balance of how to figure out what they're reporting. And so, you know, at some points I was looking at stuff and I couldn't really tell what I was looking at. The misinformation is really important. I don't want to be misinformed. And I feel like that happened recently on the Parks and Rec Board when we had a meeting and I had to vote and I wasn't prepared to vote because on the agenda it said discuss and it didn't say motion. And so that's the kind of thing that I feel like is super easy to fix if somebody can sort of go through all of those sort of boards and commissions and look at agendas and meeting minutes and make sure there's like a standard format. I just feel like it's creating problems, not always solving the problems. And then my final thought is the one that I think is the most controversial at this point, and that is I just think this council needs to consider some term limits on the Narragansett Beach lockers and cabanas. And we all know that there's a waiting list. It's long, and there's been some bad press recently, and there's some, you know, there's some things we have to think about, but it shouldn't take a person, a couple, a family, a generation to get a lease in one of those public spaces, nor should they have it in perpetuity. So I just hope that you'd consider that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Oh, also, just for some info for you and the public, we are doing a parking study on the Pier area, and we should have a report on that in the near future. So thanks for bringing that up. All right, right here, right in front. Mr. Lynch, please state your full name and address.
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street.
one of the ramifications of the pandemic, I think, was with all the Zoom meetings, it felt like the engagement on behalf of the citizens ratcheted up. Many, many people were able to dial in and participate in the meetings. And I think that, for better or worse, I think that engagement has continued. And tonight, people going, the planning board discussing extended stay, the rec advisory board discussing beach policies. I mean, there's big turnouts, a lot of people that are coming. And I think it would be helpful if you take under consideration perhaps a recommendation that all the boards and committees in this digital age of ours start publishing all of the material that typically is available to the committee members. So it's different with each committee. Some committees just publish an agenda, some publish more. No one probably publishes as much as the town council meetings, where you actually have a whole ton of attachments that you can follow. And I think a more informed public will help the dialogue and help decision-making. I know I've been to meetings at some of the commissions and the committees, and you're really sort of out in the cold because you don't know what the people are working on. Sometimes there's presentations that already have been passed out, and that had you been able to digest it in advance, you probably would be able to make more intelligent commentary, or at least follow the discussion better. So for your consideration, perhaps a recommendation from the town council, from the town council president, to the chairs, that they might, in best practice, publish all of the material available possible, understanding there are some circumstances in pension boards and personnel boards where there's stuff that's going to be proprietary or confidential. But I think that just might, so simple thought that I think could just help for a better public, official committee dialogue. So if you could take that into consideration, thanks.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone else? Ms. Celeberto?
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. First, I want to thank Jesse and Jim for organizing a very nice ceremony of remembrance for 9/11. Thought it was very well done. And I think everybody who attended appreciated it. And the other thing is the danger, the problems we have at Hazard Rock and Newton, and also Black Point. And we have a police and fire department. I think they can address those issues. Probably have to have some input from DEM, since Black Point is an issue. And maybe even the Surfcasters Association, the fishermen, because these are the people that seem to be affected. And they're the ones always getting hurt. So I think those groups, and maybe with the Coastal Access Committee, could get together. It actually is the fire department who saves these people, or it's all the fishermen a lot of times who save these people when they slip off the rocks. So I think those are the people that mainly should have input into all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. All right. Great, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that any council members would like to remove? Nope. All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved 5-0.
Mr. President, can I move up a motion to continue or withdraw for tonight?
Which number?
14.
You want to move it up?
I want to just actually pull it, so I want to.
All right, why don't we take 1 second? We're just going to let the room clear out. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, there. Okay, the motion is to move up motion 14 to the front of the agenda.
All right, so we have a motion to move number 14 to the front of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so number 14
Yes.
is,
I would just like to withdraw it for tonight because it's actually not the correct motion, so I'd just like to withdraw it and come back on October 4th.
okay. All right, so that's fine. So that will be withdrawn from the sponsor. All right, so number 14 is out. So we have Number 3, under Parks and Rec, is a motion to approve the request from the Maury Lugens Memorial Library for their 5th annual Family Costume Walk/Parade to be held on Saturday, October 23rd, 2021 at 11 p.m. Rain date October 24th, subject to approval of state and local regulations. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eva. Any comments or questions?
It's a great time. I hope people will come out for it. I've done it for many years, and the kids have a great time. So
Yeah,
I
I've done it.
encourage everybody to come out with your kids.
Yep, yeah, I agree. All right, anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 4 is a motion to approve the purchase of 6 30-foot USCG 30... Oh, yeah, okay, got it. 30-foot USCG life rings with 60-foot water rescue rope and storage cabinet, quick safety station from Shipman's Fire Equipment Company in the amount of $2,889 using the State of Massachusetts contract FIR 04. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
No, I think it's, all right, yeah, maybe it is 30 inch, that's what I was thinking.
What is it?
Second from Eva, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the item that we've heard a few comments on. So this was the motion to direct the town manager to research this was approved back in June. That was the item from Eva and Patrick. The town manager has the quote, so we can go ahead if we want to and approve this tonight. Jim, that is a 30-inch life ring, right? Right, okay, right. Are there any questions or comments from the council about the actual equipment or anything like that?
Yeah, I do, actually. Oh, sorry. So this was put through, so we had an assessment, and I know I've talked to several individuals, well, actually a couple today, and there were some concerns about using this type of equipment in certain areas, so maybe we could also use this as an opportunity to assess if that's the appropriate equipment for the locations, if there's alternatives. I did talk to Jim because I was thinking some people thought that 6 was not enough. However, we could approve it for more, but Jim was saying that if there were more needed, then that would fall under the limit of where he could just purchase them. So I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, anyone else?
I just had one question. There's 5 locations and 6 pieces of equipment. I was wondering how they were being, where the 6th one's going.
And actually, if you could list them so the public could hear where they are going to go, it would be great.
Good evening, everyone. So they are definitely 30-inch U.S. Coast Guard certified approved life rings. So again, these are the larger of the life rings. I know 30 inches seems kind of small, but these are the largest of the life rings. And I have a picture if anybody needs to see a picture. So we are purchasing 6 life rings. And again, part of this is that this was our initial start of this program here throughout town. So again, we will certainly find the 6th location, and based on tonight's speaking of all involved, it looks like we're probably going to need one at Black Point. So the initial locations that have been designated are the mouth of Narrow River, the Town Beach, Hazard Avenue, Newton Avenue, and Bass Rock Road. And as you see with the recommendation, these are the initial 5 locations. So certainly we'll include Black Point if everybody agrees to that. And again, we certainly would intend to buy additional life rings and life ring cabinets to place throughout town. Because again, even though we have only a couple of miles of coastline, it's certainly a minor cost for the town to absorb, again, for the safety of all involved. So, of course, this is our initial purchase, and I'm sure we could certainly purchase more in the future.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Yeah, I got a question. James, My concern is, I'm totally in support of this, but this has been going on for years. We buy them, and then they get vandalized, and they fall to the wayside. In my lifetime, I can remember at least 2 times we've put in safety devices at the end of Newton, Hazard Avenue, and they've been vandalized or stolen or what have you. Is there any way in this digital age we can, as soon as somebody grabs one, there's some kind of alarm in the firehouse or something where?
We did inquire, Michelle did inquire, and I spoke to Michelle after we spoke.
Right.
And they do not have, they stated that they don't have alarm set up for them like that.
That doesn't make any sense. Holland, you can come up with something, can't you?
Now,
I can't believe that.
These are similar to the ones that are currently used at wastewater if
Right.
an employee falls in.
They get stolen. They get abandoned. People cut the ropes off them. I mean,
and we did discuss that, of course, we are very much aware that they probably will end up getting stolen, hopefully not all. And again, I will certainly keep an eye on all of the different locations throughout town where we will be placing these. Again, it's an unfortunate situation, like a lot of things that get stolen throughout town. But I still think that safety should always be our #1 concern, and maybe some strong language. I could possibly speak with Ziggy at the Highway Department, again, making some signs, with some strong language, like, please don't take these. These are for safety. There's been a lot of deaths at this location. Again, kind of putting it out to the people that these are really necessary to save lives in the event of an emergency. So hopefully maybe that could be helpful. But again, of course, we're never sure about people when they take things, so.
in addition, I want to mention this again, but the problem is down there at Hazard and Newton Avenue is people step on the black part of the rock. It's like bowling. You can't go past the line. If you step on that black rock, you're gonna go in the water, so.
We do have strongly worded signage down there of the danger. And I've also given my card to the gentleman who spoke earlier who wanted to have a little input as we further enhance
Right.
the safety going forward,
Just a-
see if he can assist us.
Just a simple sign, do not step on black rock.
All right.
Simple.
Thank you. And, it probably makes sense to maybe have the town purchase another set of 6 of just the rings, not necessarily the cabinets, but as they do go missing, we'll just drop a new one in. And we can even put some wording on the cabinet, maybe for residents or anyone who sees a missing one, how to report that to the town so that there's no lapse,
Fine, maybe some type of fine.
that sort of thing.
$500 fine for vandalizing safety equipment or something.
What's that? Fingerprint, yes.
I can't believe it. in this day and age.
All right, so we're going to go to the public. Mr. Vengermesh. Please state your full name and address.
Yeah, Richard Vangermersh, 55 Osceola. Just a thought, the acoustics here have never improved. I must have said this 30 times over the last 20 years, and to no avail. We would appreciate an effort made on acoustics. Now, I used to tell my students the only dumb question is an unasked question. So I'm going to take a risk and ask a question. But first, we've had a long history of unfortunate events, mostly at Hazard Rocks. This, to me, is the limiting factor. Yes, it's fine that we have them other place, but at Hazard Rock, I really would like to get a definitive reason why we can't have some sort of a signal system that when one grabs for something, for this life-saving thing, an immediate notice goes out to the fire department and perhaps the police department if this is vandalism, because Patrick is quite correct. Vandalism has spoiled this. But to me, the strategic factor here is hazard rocks. This is the true tragedy. Somehow, the other stuff, they're dangerous, but not this bad as hazard rock. So I don't buy the idea that there's no solution for hazard rock, that when one gets this life ring, that there isn't an immediate signal given to the fire department. Because this would, number one, stop vandalism, but number two, it's an immediate alert. So I would suggest, now this is all wonderful, but a special effort be made for the critical area of hazard rock. At this point, there may be a solution that we could put at the most immediate danger spot.
Thank you. Dr. Alba?
Hi, Dr. Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I don't know if we can tag these purchases with property of Narragansett. Therefore, if anyone does steal these, they're going to be labeled. You know, these are property, these have been stolen, so they can't just be used anywhere without people say, hey, where'd you get that from, you know? So that's a consideration. I don't know if that's been thought of. We have the Osprey Cam, which has a camera there. I don't know if we could possibly put a camera there. I know they have cameras that were put up for our statues at St. Thomas More, St. Veronica's, to keep an eye on our statues, the holy statues. So I don't know if we could possibly consider having some kind of a camera system installed too, which might prevent people think twice if they're going to be on candid camera from stealing or causing harm to these life-saving devices. And also, we might want to also consider, I don't know if the state might want to enact some kind of a policy or ordinance. Like I said, there was this fisherman that showed this wraparound sleeve, and I don't know if that could possibly be, he says, even though I've been fishing for many years, he has this around him, and it shows that it's not very cumbersome, so you can fish very easily. And if you go under, he says you just pull the lever and it just inflates. So these are just considerations. If I was a fisherman and I was going to be on precarious grounds, I would definitely want to wear this as a life-saving device. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Celeberto?
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. Michelle is very polite. I think if we're going to have signs to deter vandalism, the word please can't be on the sign. And also, I think if we can institute some kind of reward system where if you happen to see vandalism or you see theft and you report it, there's a $500 reward. I think that will deter, theft or vandalism. You're stealing yourself. Yeah, and I'll report you, then we'll split the 500. Okay, but I mean, I think, we have to do two things, seriously, don't do this, and also to encourage other people to report those people who do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. All right, before we vote, we of course want to express our condolences to Mr. DiMartino and his family. Okay, so for the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 5 is a motion to approve thank you, Michelle. A motion to approve the backup enhancement project for information technology with Zones LLC in the amount of $14,083.79. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments for Dan? All right, anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 6 from the Police Department is a motion to approve the annual contract for technical support for the Police Department's computer software system with TriTech Software Systems Central Square in the amount of $20,000 $516.53.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Questions, comments? All right, anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 7 is from engineering. It's a motion to award the bid for Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility influent screen installation to the lowest bidder, Hart Engineering Corp., in the amount of $48,000.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Susan, seconded by Eva. Discussion? Okay. Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 8 from the Finance Department is a motion to approve the real estate and personal property abatements in the amount of $458.06, the real estate and personal property addendums in the amount of $23,538.74, and the motor vehicle addendums for $2,782.54.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so this is a little bit different than what we normally have put up in front of us in terms of abatements. I know Chris is not here tonight, but it looks like Jim has a little info for us.
No, mine was going to be on number 9, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, can you give us some info on this one? I know we spoke about it during the agenda setting. Or Janet, if you have anything to add on this. While we wait, does anyone from the public have anyone on the council have any questions about this one? Yeah, explanation, okay. Yeah. Janet or Jim, you guys have information on this?
I don't have any full information on this one, no.
All right, I can make a motion to hold off on it until, if that's your pleasure, until we get more information on it.
We could do that. I would
Yeah, why don't
suggest- Christine Spagnoli also wants number 9 pulled because she knows there'll be some questions about the improvements to with the GovInvest service, and she wants to be prepared to answer those.
Okay, all right, thank you. So you want to make a motion to continue?
8 and 9 together.
We'll do them separate.
Make a motion to continue motion 8.
All right, do we have a second?
October 4th.
Second.
All right, any? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion approved, 5-0. And then number 9,
Make a motion to continue motion.
we'll just need to, I think we need to open it and then we can amend it to continue, right? Okay. A motion to approve, James, does that make sense? Would we make the motion and then within the motion do one to continue? Does that make sense, or would we just continue now or pull it? Although Chris isn't here for that. Right, but we were already in it. We were in the motion.
So you open the motion, you're questioning whether you should continue it. I think you can continue to another date. That's not a problem.
Right, sorry. So we should open this first, right? Open this motion?
Have you already?
No.
Oh, either way, you can do it, a new agenda item the next meeting, or continue it to the next meeting, whatever your preference.
So I can just make a motion to continue 9.
Sure.
I'll make that motion. Do you feel like you want to read it?
Let's read it, and then we'll do a motion to continue. So number 9 is a motion to approve the contract for professional services and software purchase with GoInvest, Inc. for a sole source financial software suite in an amount of $70,000 for year 1, and authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. Do we have the motion?
I'd like to make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Well, we have to just,
Okay, I'll make the motion to.
thank you. All right, is there a second?
What is your motion?
All right.
Just to hear the.
So Chris isn't here, so she requested that we continue it. So do we have a motion to continue?
Yes, I'll make the motion to continue to the next meeting.
All right, is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Or motion to continue approved. Number 10, all right. Good thing it's a short meeting. All right, number 10, a motion to approve advertising for Galilee Lighthouse Inn property site in various publications, including, but not limited to, the New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post to solicit interest in upcoming RFP process in an effort to reach potential developers or investors who may be interested in developing this site. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, second by Eva. Okay, so this is from Eva, so you want to go ahead? It was from both, yeah.
Yeah, I know what happened there. Okay, I was supposed to be from
That's
Jesse
fine.
myself, but, so this is the Galilee Lighthouse and property agenda item. As you know, it's a tight timeline with everything's kind of pretty much moving pretty fast. There was a memorandum of agreement that was signed by DEM and the developer PRI 10, and that was executed in July. So it extended the lease for 6 months. I actually had referenced this memorandum of agreement previously, but it had never been put into our materials. So I wanted to point out, because I did reference this last time, stating how we had the state properties meeting on July 23rd. And, we had given recommendations, and that's on my next agenda item of the recommendations I gave. But this just is there for reference because it was executed prior to that state properties meeting. So I think any of the recommendations I had provided weren't really taken into account. So, so it is part of the packet. Again, it was executed before the meeting. Several occasions, both Mary Kay, who is the executive counsel for RIDM, and the acting director of RIDM, Terry Gray. I've spoken to them a couple times, and they have actually requested that if we know of anyone that's interested in developing this property, that we provide them with the names so that they can provide the RFP, which is supposed to go out the beginning of October. And I did touch base with Mary Kay about a week or so ago just to follow up on the RFP to see where it was at. And they are in the process of writing it. I did ask if we could get a copy of it so that we could review it. But she said because we could potentially be putting in a proposal that it wasn't fair for us to see it ahead of time. Didn't make sense to me, but this motion is particularly to advertise because we do want to get interested parties to be able to submit a proposal so that RIDM can review it. Because as I keep on saying, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so that we really need to get what should be there. So this is, again, it's advertising. It's not really a big cost to the town, but it's making sure that we do everything and anything we can to get this quality development. So as Jesse mentioned, it's advertising in some of the newspapers and maybe coming out with, like a great ad that really kind of speaks to potential developers. And Jesse and I also discussed, we got an email from a constituent talking about really putting it out to organizations who may have, the bandwidth to get this information out and not advertise, but just know that there's an opportunity. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts, Jesse.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was an item that it didn't make it onto the sheet, but I was kind of co-sponsoring with Eva, not officially, I guess, but that's fine. So as we know, the RFP is still being kind of put together and will go out in some way by the state. But what we want to see is we want to see as many options as possible, and we want to exhaust all of our options. And what that means is instead of letting the state just kind of throw this out there, we want to make sure it has the largest reach as possible, and to the extent that we can control that. So I think it makes a lot of sense to get it out of just Rhode Island. So let's advertise in some of the larger cities, along the eastern seaboard. And what Eva mentioned in terms of organizations that specialize in this sort of development associations, modern urbanism, those sort of things. We want to make sure that those groups or those organizations are also aware of this so that they can kind of distribute the RFP to their membership as well, as opposed to just advertising. So that's it. That's the idea.
So,
Any interest, or sorry, any interest in
I just have a
discussing?
question. Besides, I mean, a lot of times there are journals and other organizations, other periodicals that you can use to do the same thing that specialize in what we're looking for. So have we done any work to identify what they might be? Because they might not see something that comes through the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Boston Globe. And I imagine that probably certainly the New York Times and the Boston Globe, which are owned by the same company, would likely, because they do these things all electronically now, so they would probably be the same. We'd have to verify that. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think if we want to really kind of hone this down a little bit to get to the folks who we want to, to take a look at the RFP, maybe we need to do a little bit more homework too, just to make sure that we're getting, the best bang for our buck.
Right, yeah, and so we don't have that exhaustive list. However, in the recommendation, we do say not limited to.
Yeah.
So, we can get that list, assuming this is approved.
Yeah.
We can have staff provide the list of where this will be going.
Okay.
And we can also send recommendations to staff too.
Yeah, I think Mike would be able to help us with that.
Okay, anyone else from the council? Patrick?
I didn't see it in the body of the RFP. Are you going to mention that?
This is an RFP. So we're not doing an RFP
Yeah,
here.
we're advertising.
This is just advertising. This is
right,
just just a motion to approve advertising, which again, shouldn't be an exorbitant amount of money. Probably, again, I talked to Jim about this, and it probably would have been under the amount that you really had to go to council, but we decided we wanted to be open and transparent on this whole process, so that's why it's a motion.
Yeah, I'm okay with this, but in your ad, you should mention that this is a government opportunity zone,
Yep.
okay? Because that has tax benefits to whoever, long-term investment.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, the ad has not been created. So that's not in here. It would, when this is approved, if the council feels like they would like to do a secondary review to approve a final version, that's something that can be done. That's not in this motion. So, but whatever people are comfortable with, of course.
Yeah, so October 2nd, so again, the RFP is going out, from what I understand, because I did touch base the first week of October. So we are already September 20th today. So I think we could kind of figure out how to put the ad and make it kind of a meaningful ad and solicit without really.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation, so we're doing what we can under the time constraints.
Yeah, and we don't know what the RFP time limits are going to be either, right?
Yeah.
So I did ask, and they said 30 days,
Okay.
because that was kind of a
So if
concern of mine.
I'm sorry, so if we came back to the council to review the language.
I mean, it just could
It'd
be
be
a
enough time,
little
but it-
advertisement, like in the paper, like kind of, when you see like advertisements for a great investment opportunity or whatnot, you make it kind of stand out, and then you have them come through, the town, or just, so that we can know who's interested, and then at that point, we send the names to DEM. That's kind of the point of it, so.
Okay. All right, anyone from the public? Mr. Alba?
Yes, hi, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. First of all, I want to applaud and pat on the back every one of you for pursuing this. Some people say it's like David fighting Goliath, and I said we can win this fight. In fact, Director Terry Gray of RIDEM, while he did say, that some things which I don't know where he came from with respect to, we are extending the proximity lease. This was agreed upon by the town of Narragansett. I said, that's not right at all. But I did like one of the things he responded. He said, we are going to incorporate, having a multi-use area. So let's see if he will continue. I have that email which states that. So hopefully the RFPs are going to show multi-use and not a massive parking lot area. On that note, you know, we have some excellent, we have Chuck Carberry, who has a background information on this. He's a great researcher, a great architect. We have Will Green. So we have people in our backyard who are experts. We have, you know, who might, you know, even though we're going to be putting this advertisement out, let's also, if the best people are in our own backyard, especially since time is of the essence, we don't have a long time frame, let's strongly consider them if they are the best individuals to come forth and put forth an idea. Let's go with our professionals and experts who have done extensive research with the URI revitalization plan. They're members of the Friends of Galilee. They have a personal stake in this here. So sometimes, you know, I applaud you. Let's advertise and whatnot, and let's have a committee set up, which people who are going to review the finalists to put forth this list together so that we're going to have the best prospects presented to our IDEM. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Zonfrillo?
Hi, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I would recommend just letting the staff take care of this and not trying to overmanage the process. Perfect's the enemy of done, so let's get the RFP out there. They can figure out how to word it, get it done quickly, because you know things already move slowly as they are. So please let them kind of do their job and not have to approve every bit of it. I'm sure we'll get some stuff back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So back to the council. Any comments before we vote? All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 11 is a motion to discuss proposed action plan and approve resolution to direct the town manager to engage in feasibility conversations with the state for town to acquire and or gain site control of Galilee Lighthouse Inn property.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, I'm going to let Eva lead this one.
Okay, so I'll kind of go through. I put together a PowerPoint. We'll kind of go through it faster. I just wanted to make sure that there were some images included so that we could kind of visualize this. So there's a proposed, actually, so the next slide, I'll just let you know. So obviously this was the motion that we are recommending. So we're going to discuss the action plan. So next slide, please. So here, obviously we've talked about the vision for Galilee. It's actually been known for at least since the 1997 plan, and as we've said before, it's in concert with our comprehensive master plan. It's in concert with the Galilee Special District Plan. And what the vision for Galilee is that the Port of Galilee can be a unique, bustling harborfront that compatibly serves 3 interrelated uses: the fishing industries, tourism and recreation, and water transportation. This can be achieved in a manner that enhances the port's economic value to its businesses, the town of Narragansett, and to the entire state. Next slide, please. So again, the vision for Galilee, baseline improvements, management plan, program for new development, parking relocation strategy, new amenities and attractions. So we'll talk about the program for new development. Next slide, please. So for the program for new development, the Port of Galilee can be a unique, bustling harborfront that compatibly serves 3 interrelated uses, which we've mentioned previously: the fishing industries, tourism and recreation, and water transportation. So right now we're going to focus our energies here right now on tourism and recreation. So next slide, please. So this is the site plan. As we can see here, there's the 3 separate uses: fishing, water transportation on there, and then we can see the green part is the area that we're talking about, and that is the Lighthouse Inn property, which is the 5+ acre piece of property to be developed. Next slide, please. So this just talks about like the Galilee is just part of the special district in our comprehensive master plan. So next slide, please. And so what we want to focus on is the land side uses in the southern end. So again, we've said this multiple times, that the vision for the land side uses in the southern end of Galilee has been clear and well documented. And it is in our comprehensive master plan. It's the GB zone, and that is the business zone, so it talks about certain uses. And we'll get into those in a second, but the 1997 Master Development Plan talked about mixed use with a concentration on tourism and recreation that complements the fishing industries and water transportation land uses. So next slide, please. So again, it's the GB mixed use area, that's 60 feet max height, which is the only place in Narragansett that can build that high. So this is a really, really important piece of property that needs to be developed to its full potential. Next slide, please. So here, like we've gone over this, and this is taken right out of our Galilee business zone, so the special district plan. And so this talks about what kind of uses are available there, and I just put them on the slides. And so basically, the permitted uses for the marine-related uses are there outlined. There's prohibited uses and special use permits. I'm not going to get into all of them, but this is just, it's not that many pages to review the Galilee special district zoning. So the next slide. There's also hotel, retail, and service uses, so I've listed those on there. And it's like in bed and breakfast, the hotel mixed residential, so outlines those. And then the next slide, please. So transportation, utility, and public uses, so that outlines those. So those are the uses that we can have in that area, or the permitted uses. Next slide, please. So it's a really important piece of property because it's within that 5-minute walking zone. So that circle around it, when you go to areas that are the streets like along like that are downtowns or things like that, it's like the 5-minute quarter-mile walking distance. So that's what it was intended for its use, so that it would be close. So it'd be southern side, close to the beach. And next slide, please. So we've done a lot of actions and strategies in the short time that we've been dealing with this as a council. Obviously we know that we put a resolution in for the AG to investigate the breach of terms, material terms. We never really got a written response, so we are hoping to get that. I did speak with James about that, so that needs to be followed up on. The renderings were approved, so the RFP is in process. I did talk with Mike about that, and that's just to get the visual 3D, the renderings, so that we can see what the massing and how that site can be developed to its full potential. Again, it's easier to see in pictures and model it and the rendering. So I really look forward to those, and the RFP is going to go out, and there's like 3 versions of what can go there, and that's just again to show how great that area can be. We've had overwhelming support from the public. We had the petition. I think it's up to, 1,700 signatures now that Dr. Alba put out there. Friends of Galilee, we've had, a lot of public support from there. Galilee Advisory Committee's been instrumental in really just making sure that we know what needs to be done. And we've had the various workshops, as we know, meetings. I presented at the Economic Development Committee. There were recommendations that were put forward. Advertising, so today we just approved advertising, which is going to be an important piece. And in this agenda item, I actually did put the submission of the draft RFP language, and I think in the previous motion, I referenced that it was that some of the recommendations that were made were submitted. I don't know what is going to be in the RFP because, again, DM said that they could not share just in case, we could be, and the hope is that we'll be able to participate in this process as well. My only issue was that the developer is drafting and issuing the RFP, so I'm not sure why we couldn't see it because that gives them an unfair advantage. The other part that we're submitting today is, it's one of the strongest things that you can do as a council is put forth a resolution. And that is in the agenda, and that's to acquire and or have site control. We really need to be at the table on this. We can't, this is, again, a last-ditch opportunity, last opportunity that we can do this to get this right. So also, I've included the resolution. We don't need to read it, do we? Yeah. And that's just basically, engaging the, town manager to engage in discussions with the state. We have been doing this, but this is more to really be able to have a say in what goes there and the site control for that. And I also included in that agenda item as an attachment my follow-up to the state property special meeting follow-up with my recommendations for the RFP and all those. So those are in there. So this time, next slide, please. I think that's so. As I've been saying all along, we have the vision. We've had the vision. We just need the action. And so again, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And we need to get this right. So, and I'm confident that we can do this. So that's why I'm asking the council to approve this today.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the council have any questions or comments or thoughts?
Let's give it a shot. Why not?
All right, okay. From the public, Mr. Wojciechowski.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boss Neck Road. I think it's a very good idea to have conversations. We ought to maximum conversations so we get ideas out there and get our interests out there. So this is a step in the right direction, no doubt about it. I commend you for that. Although the 60 feet, I'd like to see 120 feet. I say let's try to maximize our input here. Maybe 120 feet could be 10 stories. Maybe that's more fun out there. Maybe that's something that's really makes Narragansett different and a place to go and make that area a place to go. I don't know if we should limit it to 60 feet. 120 feet, might be 10 stories. That isn't that bad. Let's have something vibrant. Let's have something exciting. Let's have something that really attracts attention, attracts contractors out here. So that's the only comment I'd have. I'd like to have it taller, but I do. Again, let's have the maximum conversations, find out where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Alba?
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Hats off to each of you and town manager and everyone who's been involved and supportive of this, Friends of Galilee. I think this is definitely something that we have to pursue. While I have the greatest respect for RIDEM, I think, as a town of Narragansett, our beloved fishing gem of Galilee, when we were attending these meetings and we heard Mr. Valcola call our gem of a village a noisy and stinky village, and then they got a 6-month extension by the RIDEM, just made me shake my head in disbelief. And then when the director sent me a letter saying that we agreed to this extension, had me shake my head in disbelief again. So I think we can do better than the job they are doing, the RIDEM. I think that they are expertise in certain areas, but in leasing and managing land, I think they have shown, negligence on their part. So I think it's time for town of Narragansett to do whatever we can in our powers to take over that land so that we can have best for the village of Galilee and everyone who loves South County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. All right. So, one thing before we vote, I just want to kind of mention is, if you're watching this in the public, or even council members might be wondering how we have these two items on in the same meeting that maybe initially seem kind of like we're just throwing stuff out there, or maybe something conflicts with another. Me and Eva talked about this, and my first impression was, well, 1 minute we're advertising to get people to bid on, put their bids in, and in another motion we're saying, actually, we want to buy it. But they do work together, because there's no guarantee that any proposal from any business or person is going to be a good fit, or it's going to be something that the state wants to do, or that PRI wants to do, because again, they're writing this RFP. So while we try to attract bids, I think it does make sense to also put our own in, or to explore if that's even possible, or can we purchase outright? Can we agree on a lease? We don't really know. I don't think anyone here knows what's possible. So what this is doing is exploring and seeing what we even have to work with and what the options are. And a lot of times you don't know until you kind of push on it. So this explicitly directs the town manager to engage in conversation with the state, and not in a obligatory way where we just say we tried. In a real way, with a council rep, to have an actual conversation and show that we are serious about this and it's long overdue. And it's clear that DEM and Prakashanti have not managed this property correctly or well over the years. So I do think that we can approve this motion while also approving the one that we just discussed. So that's how I think they work together. All right. Any other discussion before we vote?
I'm in agreement with you. Thank Eva for her hard work here on this one. It's a lot of very good, nice job. This one's sticky here. But state land in Narragansett, we're gonna try to get advertised for a leasee. So there's a lot of legs to this one. If we can get through the legal ramifications and obtain the property, whatever goes there is going to be looking for tax relief. So be prepared for that one. Subject property is in a federal opportunity zone, which has future tax representatives, future tax benefits to any leaseholder. So let's give it a shot. I'm on board with it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and, if there's no more discussion from the council, I'm going to go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 12 is a motion to amend its rules for commissions, committees, and board appointments to include a section on term limits. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Susan, seconded by Deb. I'm going to have Susan start off, and I can also jump in.
I'll give a little history on this. In 2011, I actually was the councilwoman that called for a charter review, and we had a commission, and they worked hard to examine different rules and on the boards and commissions. One of the biggest issues was the term limits. The residents really wanted limits, especially on zoning and planning. They were really upset about people serving for 30 or 40 years. It was on the ballot, and that's what they wanted. We actually never did anything about it. The practice has always been, we've been aware about limiting the terms, but we never codified it. We never cleaned it up. So this is really a cleanup. It's the third attempt to clean it up. And so I would like to hear the pleasure of the council. This motion talks about moving forward 2 full term, they have to do 2 more full terms consecutively, and then they take a hiatus. So I open it up for discussion. I don't know how you guys feel about it. This was in 2012. We are now in 2021, so it's a long time ago. The attempt to correct it is, is something I'd like to see us do, and I'll open it up to my colleagues for discussion, and I'll start with you, Jesse.
Sure, yeah, I'll just add a couple things since I'm on this one with you. So as Susan said, this was a ballot question 9 years ago, voted on by the public, and the term limits were approved. So when that happens, no matter how you feel about it, and I don't have a strong opinion on it anyway, but no matter how you feel about it, you have to move forward with what the people voted on. For whatever reason, this is well before my time, no council promulgated that amendment to the charter amendment. No council took action either by adding it to the charter or by making a town council rule. So no action was ever taken. In fact, the last council did promulgate every amendment to the charter that was passed in 2012, except for this one. So what we're doing now is taking care of business that has to be taken care of. And the question is, how is it applied? So there has been discussion over the years on whether it would be applied retroactively or prospectively. So does it count time served on committees, or does it start now and say, it should have been put in before, it wasn't, and there's really nothing we could do about the mistakes of the past. So what this item calls for is to apply it prospectively from tonight, basically from right now. And it would not count a term that is currently being served. So if you're serving on a committee right now, you can finish up your term, and then you would be allowed to serve 2 full terms. Again, not ideal, but I think it can cause the least damage this way. If we went ahead and did this retroactively, you would have board members that would be expired now. You'd have boards that would be basically emptied right now. And we have some boards that you can't do that, like planning board, zoning board. It would be very, very difficult. I think it would be an unforced error by this council, especially because we don't have to apply it that way. There's no reason why we'd have to apply it retroactively. There's no lawful reason. We're not in conflict of any state or town charter. So again, what we're saying is this would be applied tomorrow, but if you're in a term, you finish it up, it doesn't count. The last thing I want to say is, because we are limiting to 2 consecutive terms, that doesn't mean that any board member is entitled to automatically be reappointed for 2 terms. It's always a council decision. So if we say as a council, this person's been on for 20 years, sure, they are eligible for 2 more terms, but we think that's enough, then that's our decision. It's always our decision. So our hands aren't tied by this. In fact, if we did it retroactively, they would be tied. So I hope that kind of makes things clear. And we also have the town solicitor here who could chime in on whether there's any issues doing it this way, or if there are other options that would be better. But I believe we have an attachment saying actually, James, why don't you just speak real quick?
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit. As you know, the Boards and Commissions section ordinance was amended by ballot in November 2012. The ballot initiative amended the charter to allow for 2 consecutive terms for board and commission members. The problem, I think, in the beginning is that the new provision never included a start date. There is some reference to prospective start date in one of the items that Miss Eva, I've told your last name, sorry, brought to us today, but there is no date when this began. I think that contributes to the vagueness of this charter amendment. And frankly, I think it's been confusing since the day it began, because I was there the day it began. I don't even recall this, quite frankly. I never crossed my mind. Maybe we talked about it, but there's a lot of things in these agendas that Eva showed me that give me anxiety from a long time ago. Deepwater wind and NIHART pension reviews and town manager searches. My God, that's a blast from the past. But I don't recall talking about this provision at any point in those years. And I'm not sure if that was purposeful or if it was just an oversight or a mistake, but I'm pretty sure if I can imagine a reason is because we didn't know how to apply it. So this provision that Susan proposed removes the question that I think everyone's had for 9 years. And I think the rule is consistent with the charter in section 15-1-3, which says the town council shall proceed to enact or adopt as promptly, and those days are long gone, as possible all ordinances, resolutions, rules, and regulations which may be necessary to implement provisions of this charter. And I think that provision there gives the council the latitude to do or set a date if you choose to. Not that that's a requirement, but as Jesse said, I think that that's the most practical way to do this, and it sets the boards and commissions up so that the volunteers, and these people are volunteers, they give a lot of their time and effort and thought to these boards. It gives them a chance to say, okay, this is going forward, I know what the deal is, and I'm ready to deal with those consequences, whether I get reappointed or not. And I think that's important because it helps new volunteers potentially apply or not. Because I imagine if you don't set a date, nothing's going to happen again for another 9 years, which I presume is why nothing's happened for 9 years. So I think there's room for debate on whether you can do it this way, but in my opinion, my legal opinion, based on their charter review and what's been written, what's been done, I think this is the way to move forward for the council.
So basically, it's a reset of the reset.
Correct.
Well, so, okay,
Promptly-
yeah.
Promptly in dog years.
Well, so I
Plus two.
actually do have some comments. So because I did research too, and then I kind of had different thoughts about this and the dates. So I gave James copies of the minutes. I don't know if you guys want to pass them. They're in like 3 packets. So I'll just go over it. So when I was reviewing this, I looked to, when there's a question, a referendum question that's out there, there's always an explanation of it. So I kind of looked at that, and so the Article 10, boards and committees, it did talk about, the key change to appointments in term of vacancy. So again, it references how this is a completely revised article that will relate to the structure and organization of all the boards and commissions in the town. It contains provisions regarding appointment, term of office, vacancies, powers and duties, the appointment of alternate members, and term limits for members. Approval of this article will create a consistent structure for the organization, operation of boards and commissions. So there's a key change to appointment and term of office vacancy, so it delineates all the changes. And then there is the term limited to 2 consecutive terms of 3 years each. So they, actually, then there's a rationale. So it always goes over the rationale for the changes. And it establishes term limits for boards and commissions, which eliminates the same appointments being made without limitation and opens the process to new appointments. So the proposed, then it goes over proposed wording. It talks about, putting that, the limits in there. So so I reviewed this. So basically my thoughts were, if a referendum is passed on November 6, 2012, that's, and I know there have been various councils that have amended the rules for boards and commissions 4 times since 2012. But never enforced this new directive specifically mandated by the people. And I think this is unsettling to me because we're accountable to uphold the will of the people. And this referendum here was very specific. And so my questions, I know because James, you're the solicitor now, but you're also a council member. You're sitting there where Jesse was, the president. So my questions are, is it reasonable to assume the voters intended the council to ignore this referendum for nearly a decade?
I don't think that's the case, but I don't know that it says that there's a specific start date, so it's not clear. It's really
I know,
vague.
but it's really a yes or
vague-
no question.
It's a
so,
vague,
yeah.
vague ordinance. It really is. It's not,
I
it
don't
says
know.
prospective in the backup material. It doesn't include a date in the actual amendment, which is a mistake. It should
Okay,
have been
so
done.
when we had the other ordinance, there was a referendum recently, and it was in terms of property. I mean, we could have ignored that one. That would have saved us a lot of headache. But basically, when the voters voted on, it becomes, it's the will of the voters.
That's a great example of a mistake in some respects, because property is property, whether it's real property, a truck, a shovel, or a plow. And now the town can't sell plows, trucks, shovels at auction. So that should have been more clear as well, which I think is, that one's too clear. It should have been more well-written, as should this one have been.
Right, but so getting back to my question, do you think it's reasonable to assume the voters intended the council to ignore this referendum for nearly a decade? So now it's yes or no? Based on, like, I'm sitting here, I'm saying no. Like, if I voted on this, it was basically once the referendum passed, that's what it was, because it was contained in the explanation of what was supposed to be in here.
But that's not what's in the actual charter. It doesn't say that. The backup material is not in there specifically.
It's a charter amendment, and there was a commission that recommended that. So, okay, so do you think 9 years is an acceptable amount of time to implement this?
At this point, yes. What else can you do? You're gonna-
Okay,
and-
so,
you're gonna empty every board?
Okay, so, but I think, so is it reasonable to assume that the mandate should have been effective at the start of any new term following November 6, 2012, because that's when the referendum was voted on?
It could be or it could not be. It's not clear. It's vague.
Okay, so, but what's the downside to amending the language of the motion to make the policy effective at the start of any new term beginning after November 6, 2012?
You could,
And then
like I said, you could do
basically
it.
mainly to be fair to those who recently termed
I think
out.
you could do it either way. You could do it as prospective, as, terms end coming up, or if you don't set a date of today or tomorrow. I think that you'd have to, either way, you have to do something to start enforcing it.
Okay, so I actually have a proposed amendment to this motion based on everything that I reviewed. And one of the other things too, like when I did do the charter review and the commission report, I did see who was on that commission, and some of the names there that struck me as people who want good government and transparency. And the chair of that committee was actually Mike Riley, and he always talks about transparency. And I don't think the intent, and I know a lot of residents always talk about, people staying on the boards and commissions for prolonged periods of time. And and it comes up all the time. And so this is why this became, there was a commission of charter review because to stop that. So now here we are 9 years later. So the people that have been serving and are still serving, if we put this date that's recommended right now, that's proposed in this agenda item, then that means they could potentially be on for 10 more years. And they've already been on, some of them like 20. So I looked at some of the individuals who've been on these boards and commissions, and it's very long periods of time. So that sets the clock from today. So basically, it's 2 more terms from today, even though they've been on it. So again, my proposed amendment to the motion is, said term limits will be applied to member appointments / reappointments which began on or after November 6, 2012. Full and or partial terms served prior to November 6, 2012 are not included. And the reason for this is that I don't see a way to get around this issue because it was approved by the voters, certified by the state, and codified by the town. And so implementation 9 years after the fact isn't fair to those who were recently removed from boards due to the 2-term limit. An example, members of the Harbor Commission termed out. And I personally don't want to be on record doing a workaround on a very specific referendum, regardless if prior councils chose to delay implementation. So I would like to propose to amend the motion as stated.
So we would turn the clock back, and
So
start with the original.
No, not kicking anyone off. So when people are coming up for reappointments now, yeah, people have been on longer than 2 terms. 3 terms or whatnot. But when it comes up, when the term expires, we review it. And basically from 2012, so a lot of these individuals may not go on, but again, you take a 2-year hiatus and you can reapply. But at least it's setting the clock to what it was supposed to be. I don't think waiting a decade to implement something that actually was important, because there was a charter review commission report, and it was very specific. And I do, like a lot of residents do talk about, having these limits, term limits. And again, if we set this new limit to September 20th, 2021, that's going to actually potentially add another 2 terms to individuals who've already been on boards and commissions for multiple years. And it's not, I know it's a volunteer thing, but we do have applicants and we do have people that are interested. It's kind of, it's just adding more, and it's not the will of the people.
I have to give them a pension.
Right.
Been on so long.
All right, so you have an amendment, right, that you proposed. I don't know why.
Whoa, let me explain it. I want to make sure I understand this. So basically, when they're through with this, basically, I'm sure we have people who's already expired, and by the previous law, should have been off. So they end their next term in July, next July.
Some of them are 3 years out.
Right.
Some of them
Oh,
are
yeah, well, it's all
reappointed.
mixed, it's all mixed. So whenever they end their next term, then that's it, and they can't continue. Okay. All right.
Which is what this referendum had meant to do.
Right, well, they wanted to start the clock today and go on 2 terms.
But they'll do
Run
another
out of
2
term
terms.
and then have another term available to
2 more terms. So this would set the
Right?
clock.
So what was proposed in the ballot question was to be done prospectively at that time. So they intentionally put it in there so that after 2012, you would get 2 terms. That's how it was supposed to be. So basically, you'd have like 6 years to have transition and everything like that. They intentionally didn't want to cut people off in 6 months or a year because it's not, a responsible thing to do. But what you're proposing right now is to do that, is to cut someone off mid-term because we're 9 years late.
Not midterm. How would it be midterm? It's not midterm.
They would get like 6 months possibly. Someone could have 6 months.
You mean like, so if they had been
Some have
on
less
2
than
terms and
6
they have
months.
like six months left, so it's midterm? But that's from,
Right.
2 terms.
But the original ballot question avoids that intentionally. It gives people 2 terms perspective of 2012. Because if you give a short notice, it's going to screw up so many boards. And that's what we're going to do if we say we're trying to follow the will of the people. Because the last council, and we have people clapping in the back from the last council, they didn't do anything. They didn't pass this. They were on it for multiple terms and they ignored it. We're actually doing it. Right, a lot of people were there, but this council is taking care of it. It's unfortunate that it didn't get done in 9 years, but we still have to, again, we can tell someone who served 4 terms, we could say, when those appointments come out, we could say, I'm not comfortable reappointing you, you've done enough, you've been here long enough. But by doing it your way, we're handcuffing ourselves, we have no options. So I agree with you philosophically that people are on these boards for too long. And now we're given 2 more terms. But we don't have to give people 2 terms. We have the option to do it. If it's a board with no applications, then we can extend. But we don't have to. If there's 20 applications, we can say it's time to move on.
Yeah, but next, if you're not going to run in the next cycle, then you're not going to be making that decision. The new guy, the new council's going to be
How do you know he's not going to run, Patrick?
My point is that there is no lawful reason why we can't do it one way or another. And again, I think that we would be shooting ourselves and these committees in the foot by forcing these terms to be cut down immediately.
Well, the thing is, she has a very valid point.
Yeah, I
These
agree.
These charter committees are set up to review everything and execute the voters' wishes. So maybe we can split the baby. Have somebody finish their term, and then let them run one term instead of 2 terms. Would that be something you can do? Because you're
So
saying
consider- so
they can
consider the
finish their
first-
current term and then run
Right.
another 2 terms, right? That's what
Right,
you-
so consider this term as first term.
Right.
And then you have a second term.
And then you have-
Which is a good compromise.
And then you'd have 1 term to
Right,
serve.
right.
And that, you know, it doesn't cut people off, and it provides,
Because we have institutional
Continuity
knowledge in a
for the
lot of
board.
these boards and commissions and committees that would conceivably not be, sustained if we don't have
Right.
a way for them to make sure that there's, people. I mean, I wanted to make one point, and that is that what we did do was we've staggered the terms. So the good news there is that you have the ability for people to get institutional knowledge and be able to go forward for another term and be in place for maybe, more than 3 years, which is not a bad thing, especially for some of actually for all of them, it's not a bad thing. So I think Patrick has a good idea, and I think it's a good compromise between the proposal and what I was interested in. I could get on board for that.
So I think this is something that we had discussed when we were trying to put it together. There are some complications. I'm not saying we can't work those out, but I think it would probably have to be continued. I don't think it's something we can amend now. The reason is, so if someone's in their first term and they have like a month left in this term, right? So then they're going to get only 1 more term, right? But if someone just started it, then
They get the equivalent of 2 terms.
then what you need to do.
Anybody
is-
who we've appointed, I'm sorry, Patrick, but anybody who we've appointed this year is in their first term. I mean, and they have 2.5 years or whatever, plus another potential term.
Well, I think you
So
should-
that's like having 2 terms.
I think you should work it backwards. Anybody who's already served out under the old 2012 ordinance, right? They should serve out their current term and then have 1 more term.
Right.
Anybody who just, in the middle of their first term should have 2 terms after that.
right, so that's where
Yeah.
the wording gets a little bit complicated.
Right. Well, I mean, it's something that can be wordsmithed and managed. I just have one more question. Is there any way we can include town council,
It's our, yeah.
Your term limit
term
out,
limits
Patrick.
for councilmen? We can kind of squeak that in? No.
2 terms sounds good.
Yeah, 2 terms. No, to bring it back, let's try to solve it, let's try to go to a compromise, let's finish the term. right? Yeah, I mean, we're gonna put it back on?
Yeah. Well, why don't we go to the public? Is that okay? Everyone ready? Hear from the public? Anyone from the public? Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. You can't override a vote. People voted on this. They expected it to happen. I doubt there's anyone on any board or commission that doesn't know about this, okay? I'm sure they all do, and they all expect to, have to leave these boards if they have already done their 2 terms after 2012. What you're doing here is you're trying to keep people on these boards. These people voted to have these boards turn over because these people have been on these boards for years and years and years. And what you want to do here is somebody like Gloria Citrone, Manning, and a whole bunch of other people can be on for another 10 years. And I know you say, oh, we don't have to necessarily reappoint them, but that's exactly what's going to happen, believe me. But again, the people voted on this, and because of the incompetence of the town council way back in, I guess, 2012 or whenever, didn't address this matter, now you want to override their vote. You want to say, okay, we were incompetent, but we're going to override, the voters, what they wanted. You can't, it's craziness. I don't even understand how you could possibly think to do something like this. You should have done it 9 years ago. You didn't do it, and so now you don't correct, that was an error, now you want to make a bigger error. And that is just ridiculous, really. And again, I'm sure everybody on these boards and commission knows about this, and they expect to leave. I have heard, I remember Gloria Citrone, she knew that she was going to have to leave when she got her last term. And now you want to give them another 10 years. This is just completely out of the question. I just don't even know how you could do it. But if this is designed to keep somebody in place, then there might be an alternative to keep that person in place, because that's the rumor, okay? The rumor is that you're trying to keep somebody in place, and there may be another way to do that, other than throw out a vote. Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Alba.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett. So I agree with Dr. Ewa Dzwinski. Sorry about the mispronunciation. But no, I think she's on target. And I also thought Patrick had a very valid point. Pat, Councilman Patrick, you're not a menace. I respect all of you greatly. So we don't always agree, but I love you all. You're doing a wonderful job. And so is our town manager. So thank you. It's not an easy job. Yeah, I think, when we had the library situation, which was voted upon, people voted, and then people said, the people didn't know what they were voting for. I think everyone knew what they were voting for. I knew what I was voting for. So I think the case in point is that, I think people wanted term limits back then. So I think we should enact it now. The people who have been serving, 10 years already, they've had their time. So and it is staggering, as Councilwoman Kirkpatrick, Deborah has stated. You know what I'm saying? They've served their time, and if they're served 3 years term, well, so be it. And we have excellent candidates. We have good candidates that was brought out tonight. So I think we should enact the amendment that was brought forth, and I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley? Dr. Wojciechowski?
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. Yeah, I haven't made a doctorate yet. I'm kind of old. I kind of put a name on it, Dr. O'Neill, He got an award here for that Rockingham. I mean, this fellow's been on there for forever. And so it's kind of, you like to have some historical value there so people know what they're doing, let's say. You want some experience. You want experience on the boards so they don't get too wacky, let's say. So you like to have people be on there for a while, and for the historical value, for the knowledge. So I'd like to see Dr. O'Neill be on there for another 10 years. I'd love to do that. But again, the will of the people. So I guess I would hope that you would make it a slow transition so you don't empty the board out. Because putting all new people on there, you'll have no historical value there. You won't have this experience that can pass on to the new people. So I don't think you should empty them. You should just slowly make it a transition that doesn't mess up the boards totally. You got to figure out which ones. So there's some middle ground you got to find. Look for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Paul.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Winwood Circle. Are we discussing the First Amendment or Eva's?
There was no second on that. This is the first motion.
Okay. So you're going to during the whole library thing, we heard all about the will of the people. The will of the people, the will of the people, and how important that everybody was into that. And the will of the people states that they don't want people on the boards and commissions. Now, I hate to bring up the elephant in the room, but, Lori Kelly's term expires next week or so. So I hope this isn't the Lori Kelly rule to try and keep her on and going through yet another hoop for the library. And I was kind of disappointed to hear the solicitor not answer a yes or no question from the councilwoman, because obviously it was kind of a lawyerly sort of thing.
I'm not a potted plant. I'm not going to just say yes or no to anybody.
Really? Yeah. That's unfortunate. So, but in any event, it's pretty clear that if you talk to the library about the will of the people, if you talked about that during the library time, then Eva's proposal makes perfect sense. What you're going to do is when people get out of their existing terms, right, if I understand this correctly, you're not going to throw people off when they get out of their existing terms. If they have had too much time on, then you find somebody else. Every single position that I've seen expire and come up, there's been a great pool of qualified candidates for a lot of positions in town. And people are smart. They can figure out what's going on. And sometimes it's always great to have a fresh face on there. So if you believe in the will of the people, then you must pass Eva's amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lynch?
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street. I think you have to be able to combine the will of the people with what's in the best interest of the town in 2021. So again, the will of the people from 2012 was, here's a moderate transitional approach for getting into term limits. And if you do, and I'm thinking that the council may be moving toward thinking about this longer, because you don't know tonight, if you vote on this being the last term for people, you don't know who's expiring in November. You don't know how many boards you're disrupting, how many chairmen or chairwomen are being displaced in November or in the first quarter. And I think that could create a real disservice to the town. So maybe having that information and knowing that, going back to will of the people and making this the last term for people, maybe you can look at the whole scan of commissions and committees and say, well, it's not going to be very disruptive at all. However, you might look at it and say, holy cow, we'll be losing all of this institutional knowledge in a very short period of time when the issues of the town are not going to stop. These committees discuss and deal with a lot of time-urgent, complex matters that matter to their advice to the town. So I understand how you'd like to follow the will of the people, but is it practical and in the best interests of the town right at this moment? And there are a lot of people that are applying for these positions. I'm not sure you have quite an avalanche of qualified people in the particular pursuits that you may find vacant, because we've got a lot of specializations in the committees and in the commissions that you take. So I think it's an important topic, and I don't think it would hurt to know another month from now what the implications are of moving forward in an amendment versus going forward in another path. I would like to bring up one other topic related to this, but not about term limits. And as you read the charter, the committee charter, the only place where resident eligibility is mentioned, and as my recollection from reading it was in planning and zoning. It said that there needs to be applicants that are full-time residents and electors. It's silent on residency obligations for anybody else on any other committee. I think you should say out loud in the charter, is anybody eligible, do we accept people from out of town, out of state, from other countries? I think you should have some clear, explicit articulation of what the eligibility is for the other people, whatever that happens to be, part-time residents, taxpayers, residents, or anybody in the state. So that should at least balance the other side of the specific eligibility for planning and zoning, so that there can't be any ambiguity about that.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. All right, so again, the will of the people in 2012 was to set term limits and apply it prospectively. That was the will of the people then. That's what we're doing tonight. I understand it's 9 years later, so it seems a little bit different. I think there is room to compromise. Maybe we do one term. But the will of the people was not to cut off terms right after the election. So we are applying the will of the people. This is the only council that's actually done anything about it. All right, so we have an amendment, right? Eva, can you just restate your amendment?
Sure. So the proposed amendment is said term limits will be applied to member appointments, reappointments, which began on or after November 6th, 2012. Full and/or partial terms served prior to November 6, 2012 are not included.
Okay, is there a second on that amendment? Okay, so the amendment fails. All right, do we have a motion to continue and give this more thought?
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, motion by Patrick, seconded by Deb. It is a new motion. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on the motion to continue? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0.
I'll bring that back again next time.
All right, number 13, a motion to adopt a resolution to authorize the spending of the remaining bond money to repair Narragansett roadways.
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Councilor Cicilline Bonanno.
So this actually, I had quite a bit of help on this motion by the bondsman, David Ferrara. And we did the $17 million improvement program in 2012. And there's a remainder of $5.6 million. And he just helped me with the resolution because the council has the authority and must really exercise that authority if we want to spend the remaining funds. And so many residents have talked about the improvements of the roads, and I know we have some roads that are out and waiting on permits and et cetera, but there have been people that live on town roads who have wanted to improve the infrastructure of the roads. Some of them are listed in this motion. I encourage and welcome the council to help spend that $5.6 million that's left over in the bond to improve the infrastructure on the roads before it's just too late and it's just sitting there. So I would encourage you to support this as I'm committed to the residents' concerns about the infrastructure. We've been waiting a long time, and there are roads that are tied up that are, under permit, and I think Mike DeChico went over some of those and gave a pretty good explanation on where we were, the 5-year plan, the 5-year. This is the remainder of the money in that $17 million, and I just think it's important that we take some action and move forward on some of the infrastructure in Narragansett.
All right, thank
All
you.
the credit goes to David Ferrara, FYI. He worked on the resolution.
Do we have any discussion from the council?
What's left in the bond?
5.6.
5.6.
And like I said, I listed streets that people have come up and talked to me about in Narragansett, but I encourage you if there's.
I'm on the worst street in town.
So, I mean,
Me and
I
the
would
chief.
say.
Where'd the chief go?
I would say add it to the list to, to have it improved.
I'm humble.
Okay.
Let my street be done last.
No, but I mean, the important thing is
people
that
go.
we listen to the residents
Yep.
and if you have
Sounds
somebody, we
good to me.
certainly can add.
So Susan, so the money that's left, so that's not allocated towards any roads, it's just for whatever we want?
That's the leftover balance of
Okay.
5.6.
And that was just sitting there, and so we're just gonna, because I know a lot of people do complain about roads.
But just to be clear, because it's in the recommendation, the streets that you have on that, we're not voting specifically to repair those streets. We're leaving it up to DPW, right? And their schedule?
Well, so the bond does give the council the authorize the streets, and I would preferably like these streets looked at and examined, for sure, and I would encourage the council to do the same. It can go through DPW, they can look at these additional streets and, I guess, give a recommendation, but these were people, I mean, I got the list from the people that live in Narragansett, so we can vet it through DPW. Yeah, and I'm fine with that. You can look at the list and
Well, only, but, because we all get complaints about streets from
Yeah, so
residents.
that's what I'm saying, we could all add to this, and we could give it to the department, they can look at it and say, looks good, move forward.
Yeah, the recommendation is to authorize the spending of the remaining bond money to repair Narragansett roadways. So I
Right.
think that's really the.
Yeah,
the
right.
focus.
I just want to make sure we're clear
Yeah, that's
that,
not necessarily those streets.
But this,
Yeah.
I
I
do
think
have
those
a
are like
list.
examples.
Those are like,
Yeah, those
hard- they're like examples
Those
of
are
people
the-
that have spoke out, but I encourage you to
Yeah,
add
let's
to the
take
list.
Can we do that? Just take the streets out?
Discretion, yeah, I think it should be
Modify
at the
this,
discretion
amend
of
this.
the DBW, what list they have. 'cause they
Well,
have
we
their-
need to give it, but I think it's a good idea for us to give them a list, just that we can't authorize them to specifically just do those.
Okay,
I
so
believe the DPW had their priority streets.
this is the leftover, so again, we don't have to adopt this list tonight, but if everybody comes back with, now that we have the authorization and add to the list, we can create a list that we want to say, here are some lists, and everybody in this group can
I don't mind
participate in that.
approving this without any
list.
street being on this agenda
That's
item.
fine, and then we can all submit a list
And
to
then-
DPW, and he can look at it.
so what we're doing is approving the resolution.
Right. to
Which
say
doesn't
we have
list-
leftover money,
The
we should
recommendation.
spend it, yes.
The recommendation.
Right. So it's not approving these streets.
All right,
Right.
thank you.
I would agree with that.
Is that right, James? Anything in the summary is not the official motion.
Right, and I'm pretty sure, as you guys know, that DPW has a list of roads they've been working on for
Right.
years that
Right.
is coming up. I'm not sure if these roads are on there or not, but I'm sure you can make suggestions.
Right, yeah, and he has a definite plan of streets, as you all know, because he did a presentation, 5 rollout, 5 more. So
Yeah, right.
these are not on that list. This is the 5.6 is left over that we can determine
The
as a
list that he gave
council.
us is outside
Okay.
of this.
Outside of it, yes.
All right, any, Stanley?
Yeah.
South Pier Road.
Don't spend it, save
Dan
it.
Wachowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. I don't like paying interest. I know the bond guy, he wants us to get in there because, I guess he's involved in interest. I like to fix the roads and not have to pay interest, okay? Now, I think we had a 16% surplus, and we only needed a 11% surplus. So we have $1 million to $2 million in there in a surplus in our budget somewhere. And I would propose that you would take money out of the surplus on a yearly basis to fix the roads. $1 to $1 million, do that every year. Get in a system of repairing the roads on a yearly basis so we don't have to pay interest, okay? I can remember going up Rockland Street, going to church, and, I want to speed because I'm late. And it was so bumpy, it was great because it slowed me down. So and waiting another year or two on any road is not the end of the world. In fact, it's probably an asset. It's a speed bump that we probably need sometimes. So I was going to say, let's slow down, let him do his job, figure out what are the worst streets, the biggest bumps, and let's just do $2 million a year so we don't have to pay interest, okay? I don't want taxpayers to have to pay interest on top of the repairs. Let's just get on a repair motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Celeberto?
James, real quick, can you refinance a bond? I mean, when we,
I think they can, but
when
I'm
we
not
approved that, the rates must have been much higher.
I think they do that.
If they're callable, if they're callable. But
All right, Catherine, first name or
Catherine
full name and
Celebrato,
address.
48 Earls Court. First, if we take money out of our cash reserves, we lose the interest that we're getting on the money. And so it's kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen the other bond. These bonds are paying hardly any interest now, 1.65%, they're paying nothing. So I don't think that's an issue. The only thing I want to know is, this money, could it possibly, any of it be used for sidewalks? Or does it have to be used just for the roads? Do you have any discretion here? Because some of the sidewalks are really bad in town. The other thing is this, we need more storm drains in this town. And the storm drains that we do have to be cleared out, because after this past storm, a lot of people had problems. And somebody on Rodman Street was telling me that the storm drain near his house backed up, so it all went into a cellar. It didn't drain, and the only reason I can think of why it didn't drain is because it must be clogged up. So I don't know if these are, cleaned out. So a lot of things have to be done. We need more storm drains. The ones we have need to be cleaned out, and our sidewalks need to be fixed. And if any of this money can be used for that, I'd like to see that happen also. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Alba.
Hi, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett. I would recommend we, have DPW, the experts, let them decide. I think it's important that we use the money. Interest rates are all-time low now. For our streets, even if they feel that storm drains, if they feel that's a crisis, obviously let them use the money where they think is most, we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. But for us to dictate, I don't think we should have people pick and choose this street, that street based on just people who might, you could have 20 people in one road, 50 people, 70 people, who would decide which road. I think have the Department of Public Works, let them decide. They are the experts. Let them, let's use the money for infrastructure, for the roads. If it needs to be storm drains, let them look at it and let them earmark the money. But let's use that money. So I do agree with Susan 100% on utilizing that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Any other thoughts from the council? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 14 was pulled. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to
Second.
adjourn.
What?
Second.
All right. Second by Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.